Hey guys, so we're just going to have a little bit of a chat about injuries, okay? So injuries are very prevalent in the military, just purely because of the style of work that you do, the
physical demands.
It's a high risk job. Death in training is not It happens, okay? So it's not common. I don't want to say it's a weekly thing. It's definitely not, because there's a lot of measures in place to reduce serious injury, but it does happen. All right, so we're going to drop it back a notch and just talk about your responsibility as someone in uniform, and your responsibility around injuries and being proactive, and being realistic about the position you're in if you do get injured. All right, so I guess what's one of the first injuries you experienced? Well, you experienced a really shit injury early on, but it's also a very common injury. So what would you tell us about that?
I'll just backtrack to prior to joining. I didn't have a coach. I didn't know what I was doing. I just in the movie saw that, they seem to run a lot, so I'll run a lot. And if you're familiar with the Gold Coast, I lived at Burleigh. I used to run from Burleigh to North Burleigh and back again, so it's 4Ks every day. And I went to the gym and just kind of did stuff. And a lot of that is the reason why TBG does exist and why we do what we do, is so that you guys don't have to make the same shitty mistakes that we did and go through the same shitty experiences, and we can take those lessons learned and pour it into training that is relevant to make sure you guys have that injury prevention element. Anyway, that being said, I didn't know what I was doing, and I just ran all the time, and I felt like I was, doing well at running. I felt pretty good. I got to Kapuka, got through no worries, but then got to IETs, and my course manager loved running, so we used to do a lot of running for PT. I probably got maybe a couple of weeks in, and I just one day on a run felt this debilitating pain in and around my knee, and I just was like, what the hell, like why does my knee hurt? Like, I'm young, fit, healthy, like what's going on? And then as we progressed through the run, I fell further and further behind, which wasn't really like me at all. I was able to normally keep up, and I got to a point where I actually physically could not run. I could walk with a bit of a limp, but I physically couldn't like strike on the ground in that high impact type of action. So anyway, I had one of the instructors come back and say, "Oh, what's wrong with you?" And I was like, "Oh, my knee hurts, sir. I'm not really sure what's going on. This is a new pain for me." Anyway, so he's like, "Well, walk back, go to the RAP," which is basically go see the medic. So I went back, got changed, went up to the hospital, and they asked me what was going on, had a bit of a look, and they're like, "Oh, classic shin splints." And I was so confused because I felt like I was, well conditioned with running. I felt like I'd done all the right things, that I had looked after myself. And I was like, why is it happening now? Why didn't it happen at Kapuka? And it just, the way that shin splints work, and I'm not a doctor and I'm not a scientist and I'm not going to pretend to be, but the way that shin splints work is that it progresses over time. So you might not notice at the start that it's happening. And a lot of the time, being in the army and being at Kapuka, you're used to kind of having sore muscles and sore joints because you're just on the go all the time, and you might not recognize, oh, hey, something's actually wrong and something's happening to me. So having that body awareness and that injury prevention knowledge is really powerful for you guys now. I didn't have that back then. Anyway, I was then instantly told that I wasn't allowed to run anymore. I could, go for a walk, I could do upper body training, but I wasn't allowed to run. I think at that stage I was still allowed to do lower body training. And so I was doing a bit of stuff in the gym, but again, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was seeing a physio, they were giving me exercises to do. I wasn't allowed to jump, I wasn't allowed to do a bunch of stuff. And in the military, that's a cheat. You get given, a list of stuff that basically you cannot do any of these things, and it is an order. And if you go against that, then you will be liable to be charged because you're breaking an order. Or disobeying an order. So, wow, disobeying an order. So as time progressed and it kind of wasn't getting any better, I then wasn't allowed to do any lower body exercise. And so, I wasn't even allowed to walk when my course was doing PT. Incredibly frustrating. I was a a sole female on my course, a sole female in the School of Artillery, and I couldn't do PT, and I knew that all eyes were on me, and a lot of people were thinking, the chick can't handle it, and she's this and she's that, and whatever. I'm sure we can all imagine. So I felt like my pride was had a bit of a kick in the guts, and I was really disappointed because I worked hard to make sure I was fit going in, and then when I got there and I wasn't able to kind of like show everyone how fit I was and contribute in that way.
How long were you on restrictions for?
So it ended up all up being about a year. So that included getting to my unit and continuing physio there. I had to learn to run again. So I basically wasn't allowed to run, and then I did a return to run program, which is just a series of walking and running, until I built that up. And then I basically had to get on a treadmill with a physio. She completely changed my running style. I had to change the shoes, I had to get orthotics, I had to do a whole bunch of stuff. And then once I learned how to run again, and I still use that running style now, I then had to implement that into running. So it was a year before that restriction was completely lifted and I was allowed to run again.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So as you could imagine, being restricted for that amount of time, like I was still allowed to go outfield and stuff, I just wasn't allowed to run when I was out there, which, sometimes was a bit difficult. But I was pretty crafty in making sure that I could work around my injury. So yes, I had these restrictions of things that I could and couldn't do. But in my mind, I wasn't acting like I was dead, it wasn't, you can't do anything, so just sit down and do nothing. I was like, okay, well, what can I do? So when you get these restrictions, if it's in the military, you get a cheered. If you're seeing a physio before you join the military and they tell you what you can and can't do, ask them what you can do. Instead of looking at it and going, it says I can't do these things, so I'm just gonna sit here and not breathe for 3 months. No, what can you do? What proactive approach can you take to making sure that you can still train around an injury, that you can still better yourself in a different area? And for me, that ended up being non-impact stuff. So it was swimming and cycling. I'm not great at cycling and I still don't love it, but I could do it. So I got myself a bike and I just started cycling because I was allowed to do that. And I was doing swimming and cycling a lot, and then eventually I ended up joining the triathlon team, and then once I could run again, I started competing in defense triathlons, and it was awesome. I loved it, but that took time to be able to do that again. So instead of I can't train, I can't do this, I can't do that, I'm just gonna not do anything because it's too hard. Think about what you can do and go to your physio, go to your GP or whoever your medical professional is, and say, okay, that's great, you've told me what I can't do, so what can I do? What rehab exercises are you going to give me? What sort of things should I be doing? Because the more that you can work on your deficiencies around an injury, the easier it's going to be when you come out of that injury, and you're not just going to have been sitting on the couch eating chips for a year. You're going to, be a good swimmer or be a good cyclist, or you're going to have a really strong upper body because you couldn't do lower body, or you're going to be really good at push-ups, or you're going to have a really strong core because you couldn't run, or you don't necessarily need to just throw the towel in and go, I'm done.
And that comes back to you're in uniform as well, okay? Maybe in your old job where you're like, I'm just going to sit around 3 months because I'm not allowed to fucking walk, okay? But you're in the military, the whole police, you're representing, okay? So you have to be proactive. You have to go on. It's like, right, I can't run, go cycle, get better at swimming. So giving up and just being like, I don't care, is the worst thing. Because at the time, when you come back from your injury, your fitness is going to be dropped. So if you join back into normal PT, after your fitness has dropped, you're at a higher risk of injury again. And you see that so many times, people on this fucking injury cycle, because they don't do the rehab and then they come back to PT, straight into a hard session, injured again. Rehab.
Do the rehab.
Rehab.
Cannot emphasize that enough. I just spoke to someone on the phone this morning who's like, oh yeah, I get exercises from a physio, but I don't really do them because I don't think that they're really helping. That's not up to you to decide. You are going to someone who is an expert in their area, trust them. It's like when you come to us, if you came to us and did a bit of the training and said, it's not really working, like, we're the experts, trust that we know what it is that you need and go and do it. Much the same as a doctor says you need to take this medication to prevent this from happening. You trust them because they know more about it than you. So if a physio is telling you to do rehab, do it, and do it all and do it properly. And I think you can speak to rehab in a lot of your injuries as well, in that if you hadn't have done the rehab, you'd be in a whole bigger world of hurt. But because you have done the rehab, you're able to kind of now live with a lot of injuries and work around them.
That's right. So probably, I didn't ever have shin splints. So my shins are still sore now, but that's just by nature of kilometres and kilometres of pack marching and wearing boots. Just by nature, you're going to have problems. The only time I had any sort of shin pain, we're getting ready for East Timor, deploy to East Timor, and I bought these new runners. I bought Asics Kayano. One of the most popular runners out there. But what I realised is they're the worst shoes for me because they have a block which supports pronating. So I don't pronate. I need a neutral shoe. So by me having blocks in there actually made my running style worse. And within a day, I had horrendous shin pain. And I was just like, what the fuck is going on? Like I've been fine. And all of a sudden, it was the shoes. So I have to get neutral shoes. It's really, really important. That's why there's a big emphasis from us on choosing the right shoes, okay? It doesn't matter about the brand, it's the right shoe for your foot. And that is a personal experience where I had those new shoes for about a week and I had to throw them out because they just weren't the right ones for me. So for me, mostly it was around knee problems. So when I joined, again, this is what a big motivator for us now and why TBG started was there was no education. It's all like run miles, do lots of push-ups, do this. It's like, okay, cool, but it's very mindless training. And that's what everyone thinks when they go military. You just run. It's so stupid to just think that's simply about it. You're paid to keep fit. So essentially don't let this go to your head. You're a tactical athlete, okay? So you're paid to keep fit, all right? Just like Usain Bolt. For him to get fit, he's got very, very specific things along his training regime that he has to include. A lot of weight work, a lot of plyometrics for his sprint, a lot of single limb work. All this sort of stuff is all so he can become a better runner. But the foundation for everything is strength. So when I joined the military, strength in its traditional sense of lifting weights wasn't part of what we did. We just did body weight, we ran and we did swimming and
torsion bars
and just all this sort of stuff, which is good to make you tough, but it also breaks you, which is not what you want. You want to be able to serve for as many years as you can, not be a broken bit of shit. Okay, so strength is the foundation. Okay, every single athlete does strength. That's your soul. That's your foundation. Then from there, then you can develop power and endurance section. You've got to have your strength, which is something we didn't do. So now being a coach and understanding anatomy and human function, I realised in those first few years of my career, I had really weak hamstrings and glutes, okay, and quads as well. And that was a big recipe for knee injuries. Well, I played a lot of sport as a kid, so I was like, yeah, well, it didn't matter. It wasn't until I became a coach I realised the importance of it. So a lot of knee injuries, and now I have a lot of problems with my knees. I'm getting an operation soon on my knee, etc. And that's all around having weak glutes, weak hammies, weak quads. All right. So that's how do you develop that? Lifting weights, deadlifts, squatting, lunging, etc. All right. So it's very, very imperative that you have those. And then the other thing you used to get in the military, lots and lots of push-ups. You're like, yeah, okay, cool, push up, push up, push up. They have no real world relevance, all right? They build up some upper body endurance, but what real world activity requires you to do a repetitive push on the ground? Like there isn't anything. Find me one. Find me a real world situation where that's important. Okay, so the focus on just doing push-ups it's an archaic way of thinking, and it doesn't give you true balance or any sort of relevance in strength. Okay, you've got to think a bit more holistically about your body in this sense. So for me, it was weakness in glutes, hammies, and quads, caused a lot of knee injuries. The other one, because I had ego as well, I was like, yeah, let's do hundreds of push-ups all the time. You shorten these muscles, right? What happens now is your shoulders don't function the way they're supposed to because you've got these really, really tight muscles, and you start to get impingements, bursitis, things like that, and the army dudes always got shoulder injuries from this type of training, and without doing many back exercises. So like with our training, we do a lot of back, a lot of glutes, a lot of quads, like a lot of the relevant stuff. And you'll find we don't actually do that much pushing because you're going to do plenty of that shit once you're in, and you can worry about injuries then. But right now it's really, really important that you build up structural integrity by lifting weights to reduce the likelihood of those injuries. So yeah, for me it was shoulders and knees, classic military injuries. A few broken bones, which are sort of once-off random activities, but yeah, primarily you've got to do that strength work, build that structural integrity, so you minimise the risk of having knee injuries, shoulder injuries, back injuries, etc. Yeah.
All body injuries. And you know, we've spoken about this at length, and you know that's because it's something we're really passionate about is injury prevention and then injury management if it does happen, because it's going to happen. And that's, you know, giving you guys the education and the knowledge to make sure that you can be so body aware that when things are happening to you, you either know how to prevent it or you know how to manage it. And, you know, my two biggest pieces of advice when it comes to injuries is you're not dead. So please don't sit on the couch and eat, you know, I don't know, fucking Allen snakes for the next 3 months. You're not dead. So get up and do something and train around your injury. Speak to your physio, find out what you can do. Instead of sitting there thinking, oh, they've told me I can't do all these things, what can you do? And if it's as simple as the only thing you can do is get a 1 kilo hand weight and do this while sitting, do that.
Do it.
Do that. You know, it doesn't matter. You know, you're about to have a knee operation. I'm sure you're going to go fucking insane while you're having to sit there in a knee brace for 6 weeks. And I have no doubt that you're going to find ways to, you know, he'll probably just be sitting there doing bicep curls with a tin of tuna. Who knows, you know, but you can work around these things. And obviously, if you're in the military, you need to, you know,
abide by the rules
and do the right thing. And we're by no means suggesting that you go, hey, fuck your shit, I'm going to do whatever. Definitely not. You have all the resources at your disposal. You have access to physio, you have access to podiatry, you have access to GP, you know, lots of allied health. You know, you have access to pool, gym, hydrotherapy pools in a lot of the bases. Like you have access to so much. There's no reason why you cannot do your rehab and why you cannot train around an injury.
Don't give up if the doctor's like, here's shit, no lower body injury. That's very, very, remember GPs aren't experts in that area.
They're just practitioners.
If he gives you a shit, no lower body, okay, fine, cool, go and see a physio and get some real training. Because like, for example, so I'm having a knee operation in a few weeks, maybe in a month's time. This morning I did heavy squats. So the dumbest thing I can do is pack marching or agility work. So I won't do that. But I can still jog and I can still lift weights, even though I'm having an operation soon. So, and the first thing I'll be doing when I'm allowed as well is squatting. And you've got to build that strength up. Your ligaments, your tendons, the muscles around the joint need to be strong. And the stronger you are, the quicker you can come back from an injury as well. So structural integrity, be proactive and don't just be like, okay, can't do anything for 3 months. It's just a very, very disgusting mindset to have, and
especially
it's very, very lazy.
Especially if you're being paid to be fit and you're being paid to like be on convalescence leave with an injury. Like you're not just sitting around like not getting paid. Like that is your job. So you should be working during that time to get back to as close to full health as you can be, so you can get back to doing your job and contributing to your chosen service. You know, it's like, yeah, we could probably talk about this for hours.
Injuries are going to be part of your career, unfortunately. Be proactive, all right, and do the work. And work around it, okay? Don't just go down and see the physio, work around it. I can't emphasise that enough. I've done it. I used to go and see physios all the time if there was a long wait. Sometimes the military medical system is a long process. Be proactive. This is your body, okay? Sort it out.
And that goes to, you know, applicants as well. So many of our members have had pre-existing injuries coming to us and they just didn't know what they were meant to do. So they just like either didn't train or just, you know, trained anyway, you know, and once we sort of set them on the path of basically telling them the exact same thing is to seek out the appropriate help and do the work and make sure that you are training around that injury. You know, a lot of people as an applicant are scared to go and see any, you know, medical people because they're scared it's going to, you know, be found out and, you know, impact their application. I'm not going to tell you what you should and shouldn't do. Obviously have integrity, obviously do the right thing. But if you don't look after an injury now as an applicant, you're going to be in a world of hurt once you are a serving member. Because if you, for example, shin splints is a really good one. If you keep training and training and training and training on shin splints, you're going to get to Kapuka, Cerberus, 1RTU, wherever you go, and you're going to end up in remedial or getting back class because your shin splints fucking imploded and, you know, you now can't function. Deal with it now so that once you get in, you can just cruise through and you can be a contributing member of your chosen service. You know, a lot of people come and they've got a knee injury and they're like, oh, I'm just not going to tell them, and I'm not going to go see a physio, I'm not going to do anything. And then they get to basic training and they've been doing running, jumping, you know, all this crawling, all this sorts of stuff, and then their knee fucks out. And it's like, if you had just dealt with it first and done all the right rehab and done all the right training around it, you wouldn't be in this situation and you'd be able to cruise through and continue on, you know, get a cool posting and deploy and all that sort of stuff. So in order for you to have happy, long-lasting careers, either as an applicant or as a current serving member, seek out the appropriate guidance through the right medical professional, find out what you can do and work around it. It's worth it.